beyond the horizon, off the coast of Belize, the ocean plunges straight down, more than a mile deep. Here, fish are drawn by the thousands.
I would say about 3,000 to 4,000 fish.
The fish come to spawn. But why here? What siren calls to them? And what beckons this? The largest shark on Earth. Located at the base of the Yucatan Peninsula, Belize is a sanctuary for many extraordinary creatures. But this pristine land is under siege, and Belizean conservationists battle to save a place they call paradise. A boatload of divers aims for a spot in the deep ocean, and the rare chance to swim with the biggest shark of them all.
When the spawning starts, stick with me up, the sharks start to come in and they start to burst through the spawn.
Brian Young is a Belizean dive master. He leads an underwater expedition toward one of the most remarkable events in the deep ocean, and to a place as rich and rare as it is fragile.
If I find a school of fish, we all want to get real tight together, because pretty soon, when all the fish start to spawn, there's zero visibility in that spawn. You can't see each other, you can't see the fish, and you can't see what kind of sharks are in there. All you can see is a big mouth of the whale sharks just zooming through those spawn. And sometimes maybe it's not a whale shark.
In fact, it could be one with a nasty reputation, like this aggressive bull shark. But the whale shark is different. Despite its giant size, it survives on the smallest life in the ocean, some of it microscopic, straining its food through sponge-like filters along its gills. It weighs more than 2 full-grown elephants, 20,000 pounds. It took a long time before fishermen discovered the fearsome Leviathan's gentle ways.
I was scared, laying down in the boat, just peeping over the side, looking at the shark, because then we didn't have much education about the shark. Thinking about getting over, putting my feet over, looking, jump over, jumping back the boat. Finally went down and touched him and jumped back in the boat. Adrenaline's pumping like crazy, but that was the first time I touched one. Still knowing that they couldn't harm you, but that feeling for the first time you could never forget.
The ocean is Brian's legacy, inherited from his father, Jack Young, a commercial fisherman. Jack never imagined that one day his son would swim with fish instead of catching them.
Well, the tourist industry is a new industry. Some of the boys, they get training and they like that more than fishing, I guess. They make a little more money. So they gone that way.
Fishermen travel many miles to ply this spot called Gladden Spit. The waters are rough and sometimes dangerous, but their hauls are plentiful. Located just beyond the largest reef in the Caribbean, this natural aquarium is a miracle of biology, nourishing mile after mile of marine life. Scientists travel here hoping to understand the strange attraction of this briny paradise, and to keep watch for the first sign of trouble. Aloy Cuevas, a local fisherman, first brought the researchers to this breeding ground. Each day, they are stunned by the mysteries unfolding beneath the rolling seas.
There's a big spawning action going on right over there.
Marine biologist Dr. Will Heyman heads the study for the Nature Conservancy. He coordinates his work with Rachel Graham, a British researcher. The depths off Gladden Spit are a watery womb, a deep spawning pool, where females lay their eggs to be fertilized with the male's sperm, an act known as spawning. Called Kubera snappers, the 50-pound fish have sharp, claw-like teeth that could deliver a memorable bite to a careless diver. No one has witnessed the complete mating ritual of these breeding fish until now. A female signals her readiness, hanging upside down and mysteriously changing color.
There was some beautiful action with these big, huge white females with the belly like this, and just twitching upside down like that.
A beautiful one, female, big, laden with growth.
Jerking almost.
Jerking!
Yeah,
and then the kind of 5-6 males all around, rubbing her, nuzzling her stomach, and her twitching.
Oh, yeah. Gradually what happens is that spiral of fish moves up through the water column, up, and gradually reaches an apex into about 30 or 40 feet of water and begin to spawn in small subgroups with a large female chased by 5 or 6 males.
These giant schools comprise some of the largest gatherings of fish in the Caribbean. And it's not just snappers. As many as 26 different species come here to breed. The larvae of the Kubera snapper are studied because they are so abundant. In time, their life cycle may explain the great secret of these waters. Rachel's first job requires rounding up the clouds of spawn.
Wish the spawn fairy some luck. She's got her wand. And I'll need a hand with the camera if I may.
What we're trying to do is actually collect eggs at the moment.
We want to be able to look at the whole life cycle of this fish, and part of it is raising them up from the eggs.
It feels like we're competing against whale sharks. You're there in the middle of one of these huge milky clouds, you can't see anything, and the next thing you see is about a 3-foot by 1.5-foot wide mouth coming at you like a jumbo jet. You really have to get out of the way.
Sure, if a whale shark came along with his mouth open and sucked me in, I'm sure he'd spit me out in a jiffy because I'm sure I don't taste so good.
They're completely intent on just hoovering up as many eggs as possible, and they will make no bones about just pushing you out of the way very gently, but you feel like you're at a buffet table with some behemoths.
No one understood why the whale sharks came to these waters until the team discovered that they were drawn by the caviar, the clouds of fish eggs fogging the water. But larger mysteries remain.
We have no idea where the whale sharks are coming from and where they're going to, and how large their migrations are, or even their home ranges.
To understand the sharks' movements, they use identity tags. The idea is to give each shark a number so its travels can be recorded.
We're using nice numbered ID tags which help us easily determine which sharks are coming back, and also numbering them off, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And providing the tags stay on well, we'll get a general idea of what the population is.
Okay, 055. He's got a big notch on his dorsal, and he's about...
So far in her research, Rachel has tagged more than 80 sharks.
I'm gonna just try to get footage of the first tagged whale shark. He's just right below us right now. I just want to get some good footage of that. Tell me when to go in, Alfred. There he is. Wow, I like that.
3 dots lined up on the tail fin. That'll be a nice ID piece.
Analyzing the miles of videotape from spawning snappers and whale sharks goes on into the night. The pictures teach important lessons, but they have miles to go before they sleep.
What's this? There you go. Check out my gill sponges, baby. There we go. Nice set of lips.
These majestic and graceful fish, the largest in the ocean, grow to 60 feet. Whale sharks are legend, a siren call to lovers of the deep. But they are not the only sharks wooing visitors. The trade winds of tourism are driven by the mingling of reefs, islands, and opal waters.
Yeah, man. This is the life for me, you know? But being out on the water full time, under the hot sun, you know? So the sea was my park as a child, and the island was my home. And that's how I learned to say I love it. Using a delicacy called lobster. The sharks and the rays, they love this food. So we come together with seafood here. This is the Shark and Ray village.
The word shark normally drives people away from the water. But in Belize, nurse sharks are an excuse to get close to nature.
Most tourists respond to these attractions that we have around here, you know, with very exciting feeling. Some of them first time ever swimming close to a shark. So for the tourists coming to see this attraction, Shark and Rays attraction, is a very highlight spot.
It's amazing. I've never seen so many creatures. Every time I come, I see more things.
That eagle ray, that was incredible. He's so big and graceful. And the sharks, I wasn't scared of them after a little while.
Belize is one of the last places in the Caribbean with a chance to maintain nature at its best. The reefs and shallows of Belize also lure sportsmen because they are a haven for game fish. For Aloy, that means opportunity.
Got this rod and this line going up, and it looks so neat, you know. I get very interested, so I bought my own rod and I start to do a lot of practicing, and after you get the first fish on, you know, then when you really get hooked on fly fishing, you know, because it's something totally different.
Aloy supplements his income guiding visitors to a wildlife experience. In time, he hopes Belize will become a magnet to sports fishermen. Back in Monkey River, where Aloy makes his home, he preaches the virtues of this enterprise to his community. Until recently, commercial fishing was the village's most important source of income.
What I'm doing right now is training some of the young men in Monkey River so they could be a part of this fishing, fly fishing thing with the tourists. So that would make the village a little bit better in one sense that they could turn from commercial fishing to sport fishing would be very good. You know, protection for this place is very, very critical. It's because if you overfish the fish, the whale shark would go away.
But there is even more at stake. The reef's value goes beyond fishermen and tourism.
There aren't many places in the world where you can swim with whale sharks in enormous schools of fish. There aren't many places where you can catch tens of thousands of pounds of mutton snappers. And yet, as we're well aware, this type of place is very vulnerable and can very rapidly be extinguished.
These coral walls are living organisms. They shelter and sustain a cornucopia of undersea life. Preserving this haven may mean limiting its use by creating a reserve. But for some fish, like the Nassau grouper, it may be too late. Once, the big grouper was among the most sought-after fish in Belize. But that's changed.
When my father used to bring me this side, when 3 days time we were having probably about 800-900 groupers.
We only caught about, let's say about 5 groupers.
So no grouper, not one grouper.
Grouper is referred to as an indicator species, and that means that the amount of grouper that are seen on your reef, it usually tells how healthy your fisheries are, how healthy your reef are. And whenever you don't find groupers on the reef anymore, it tells you that there's some sort of overfishing going on in your area.
Beverly Wade is a key administrator at the Ministry of Fisheries. She sees the grouper decline as an indicator of trouble ahead. When an important fish suddenly disappears from its usual location, scientists try to understand the change. Eventually, a place as healthy as Gladden Spit could be threatened. Studies of the site use some of the most advanced tools in the scientific arsenal. One way to learn more about the fish is by attaching radio transmitters. As the fish pass listening devices anchored to the sea floor, their travels are recorded.
Now that we know this new technology works, scientifically we're trying to find out a lot more things. All these questions we're starting to be able to answer by remote sensing, basically. Putting listening stations in the water and having the fish come and go by these listening stations, we can see when they're there, when they're not there. And then for the blue one, that's...
By tracking the fish, Will hopes to understand their movements. And by working with local fishermen and tour operators, he hopes to build a coalition to protect the breeding ground. At stake isn't just the survival of a species, but a way of life for Belizeans. Aloy knows firsthand that the waters off the reef are changing fast, and the fish aren't the only creatures affected.
Yeah, like 5 or 7 years ago, we used to do like up to 4,000 pounds. Yeah, you're catching a lot less right now, you know. We used to come out here and average like 2 lobster to each shot, but now it's less than 1. Yeah, this is a good sized lobster. This have about 7 ounces of tail right here.
Both lobster and conch are a very important part of the fishing industry in Belize, and it's also one of the target species that we're looking for.
Julie Robinson works for the Belize Audubon Society. She compares marine life in protected areas with life in the wild.
We've been looking at specifically within a protected area, and then going outside and looking at the numbers out there as well and comparing the two.
At the oldest marine reserve in Belize, called Half Moon Cay Natural Monument, she discovers that reserves have benefits far beyond their boundaries. They work like safe harbors where marine life thrives. In short order, the protected areas replenish waters starved by overfishing.
Protection of a very small area actually is helpful in that there's a spillover. So if we keep a healthy population within the boundary, they'll continuously spill over and move out into the areas where they fish.
But more than fish benefit from the reserve.
Good morning, everybody. My name is...
An international clientele of nature lovers visit the Cay, where they can see as many as 100 species of birds.
Look at that one moving this.
The main attraction is the white feathers of a bird called a red-footed booby. Elsewhere in the world, boobies usually appear in gray or brown feathered wrappers. The boobies may thrive here, but they must contend with pushy neighbors, poachers called frigate birds. The larger birds not only steal food in mid-flight, but barge around stealing nesting supplies.
Can you see over the top of those? There's a male frigate displaying on the branch. Look.
The birds' dramatic displays are not aimed at taunting the hapless boobies. This is romance, frigate style. The long reef and deep waters around Gladden Spit are unique. So are the people who make their livelihood here. The fishermen work in coalition with scientists. Instead of taking their hauls directly to market, they measure each catch to analyze the health of the fishery.
62.
Together, the coalition edges toward a solution: to regulate and monitor the breeding ground.
We're committed to seeing that our fisheries are here for the future. You know, that 10, 20 years from now, Belize still have a fishery. Belize is at the point where we could make a difference.
In the end, their work bears fruit. Gladden Spit celebrates its designation as a marine reserve. The whale sharks will be protected and fishing carefully monitored. The Belizean anthem says it all. Through Coral Isle, over Blue Lagoon, keep watch with the angels, stars, and the moon.
It gives me great pleasure to be here today for the signing of this area. Gladden Spit is very important on a regional scale, especially for these fishermen from these communities that depend on this resource each year.
Fisherman Jack Young is old enough to remember the past and wise enough to understand his son Brian's future.
Like a crazy man, but I'm here.
The Minister of Fisheries makes it official. A huge animal that once provoked fear sparked a movement that created this ocean sanctuary, and an unlikely coalition of business people, government officials, and dedicated conservationists. Making Gladden Spit a protected area marks an important step for Belize. This comes as good news for the tourists and good news for the fishermen. Together, they form a pact that ensures income and enjoyment, from which they both profit.
Huge whale shark. Incredible. Bigger than this boat.
Incredible. There were dolphins flying over there and a whale shark over us. It was incredible.
You're like an angel.
very close to God.
But there's one right on the surface right there. Right behind you.
The great sharks opened up new opportunities for Belizeans, men like Brian Young. They changed his future. By daring to swim with sharks, Brian helped create an industry, and if Belize is lucky, preserve a way of life.